HOA called cops when I fished my own lake, then learned they were the trespassers for years. The lake was my sanctuary, a quiet corner of the world where the ripple of water and the tug of a fishing line could erase years of heartache. I'd bought the land 5 years ago, a modest plot in rural Maine, after my wife passed. The deed was clear. The lake, the surrounding woods, all mine. I'd spent countless evenings casting lines, finding peace in the solitude. But that peace shattered the day Karen showed up. She stormed across the grassy bank, her designer boots sinking into the mud, her voice sharp enough to slice through the calm. "You're trespassing," she barked, her phone already in hand, filming me like I was some criminal. "This lake belongs to the HOA. You can't fish here without permission." I stood there, rod in hand, dumbfounded. The HOA, my land, wasn't part of any community association. I tried to explain, holding up the deed I kept in my tackle box, but Karen wasn't having it. "I'm calling the cops," she snapped, dialing with a flourish. Her husband, Greg, trailed behind her, silent but glaring, his arms crossed like a bouncer. The officer arrived within the hour, a young guy named Officer Daniels, all-pressed uniform and cautious eyes. Karen launched into her story, painting me as some drifter poaching on sacred HOA property. I handed Daniels my deed, my hands shaking not from fear, but from the absurdity of it all. He frowned, flipping through the papers, then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, this says the lake's his. You got proof it's HOA land?" Karen's face reddened, but she doubled down, insisting the HOA had managed the lake for years. Greg nodded, muttering about community rights. As Daniels radioed for backup to verify the records, a crowd gathered, neighbors from the nearby HOA development, drawn by the commotion. Among them was Mrs. Callahan, an elderly woman I'd seen walking her dog by the lake's edge. She'd always waved, but we'd never spoken. Now, she shuffled forward, her cane tapping the ground, her eyes sharp with something unspoken. "You all need to hear this," she said, her voice trembling but firm. Mrs. Callahan's story was the twist no one saw coming. Decades ago, her husband had owned this land, lake and all. When he died, the county mishandled the sale, and the HOA, led by Karen's father, a real estate mogul, had swooped in, claiming the lake as community property, without a shred of legal right. For years, they'd bullied owners, fudged paperwork, and scared off anyone who questioned them. Mrs. Callahan had stayed quiet, fearing retaliation, but seeing May, a stranger fighting for what was his, lit a fire in her. "That lake's not yours, Karen," she said, pointing a bony finger. "You've been stealing it for years." The crowd gasped. Karen's bravado cracked, her phone slipping slightly in her hand. Greg looked away, his face pale. Daniels, now joined by a senior officer, confirmed it. The HOA's claim was a lie, built on forged documents and intimidation. My deed was ironclad. The lake was mine, always had been. But the victory felt hollow. Karen's defiance melted into something uglier, desperation. She stammered about her father's legacy, how the HOA needed the lake for property values. Greg, silent until now, muttered an apology and pulled her away, the crowd parting like a sea. As the officers escorted Karen to their cruiser for further questioning, Mrs. Callahan grabbed my arm. "You fought for what's right," she whispered. "Don't let them break you." Her words hit harder than I expected. I'd won, but the lake no longer felt like mine. It was tainted now, a battleground of greed and lies. I packed up my rod, the sunset casting long shadows across the water, and drove home, the silence heavier than ever. Days later, I learned the HOA faced lawsuits, and Karen's family was unraveling under the weight of their own deceit. But the real sting came from the community's response. Some neighbors thanked me, others shunned me, blaming me for disrupting their perfect enclave. The lake, once my refuge, became a symbol of division. I haven't fished there since. The heart of this isn't just about a lake, it's about truth, ownership, and the cost of standing your ground. Karen thought she could bully her way to control, but the real trespassers were those who built their lives on lies. Mrs. Callahan's courage reminded me that justice, though bitter, is worth fighting for. Yet the scars remain, etched into the land and into me. What do you think? When does fighting for what's right outweigh the cost to your peace? Share your thoughts on justice, community, or the battles we choose.